Hey, what's up? It's another episode of Watch Your Strappin. These are not watch reviews per se. There's usually primarily wristwatch
A
check.
message has been received.
Sorry. Primarily a wristwatch check with a strap pairing aftermarket usually, and just to show that. But I could also consider these, supplemental information to an existing review, or just basically ongoing user experience reviews, videos, just to share my ongoing thoughts and experience with the watch. And this is my TAG Heuer WD, I believe it's 1210. I forgot the exact model, but it's basically a 1500 series diver from the 90s, and this was basically my very first luxury watch purchase that I got for myself back around 1995, late 1995. And I had some video about this, told a bit of a story, and I sometimes repeat it, but nonetheless, it is my story. And it's just a great watch that I had for basically 13 years straight, and almost primarily my only watch. I did have a few things here and there. I think a couple of swatches are always thrown in during that period, as well as maybe some other dress watches, but this was my main watch that I pretty much wore for, again, nearly 13 years straight, 17 years away from it, because I somehow lost it after 13 years, after moving into a house, fixing it up. Shortly afterwards, I was like, where the heck did my watch go? And anyways, it is what it is. And so I finally decided to rebuy this watch back, try to find a pretty good example of one. And I think this one serves the purpose. It's not perfect, but given the age and everything, it's holding up pretty well. And I'm just happy to have this old watch back on my wrist, as it represents I think a pretty significant point in my watch collecting, hobby. Although I don't consider myself a watch collector, at least back then. I didn't buy nearly that much. It's basically one watch for the most part, for years, until usually a battery ran out or whatever. I decided I feel like I needed one, but it's not like now where I'm a little bit more tempted to add more watches in. But and it's quartz, but it's reliable, it's accurate, and I got no problem with that. I have my automatics, mechanical watches too. They can all have a good time in my watch collection on my wrist as well. And anyways, for such a long time, I've never considered, when I originally owned it, I never considered taking it off its stock Jubilee-esque bracelet. It kind of is, but it's definitely its own TAG Heuer thing. It has these angled links. If there's the various TAG Heuer bracelets from the past, you probably know what I mean. So it's nothing amazing, but it's more solid than I remembered it being, actually. And that's my preference on this watch, but I do like to switch things up. And again, for such a long time, and if you add those 13 years plus the 17 away, essentially this has only been on a bracelet technically for 30 years almost. And so I finally, at this stage in my watch collecting, I definitely have for some time now open up to the idea of strap changes, and changing up the look and feel, and just adding more fun and value to an existing watch in the collection. And so when I bought this, that was the hope, is to experience that, because I never did that with this watch. It's always been on the bracelet, and just to see really get a feel of how it may wear on other straps was that's something I was excited to explore. And if you've seen my other videos, I definitely have tried some. And as I'm going, I felt this was time to get back on rotation recently. I took it off, whatever the last strap was. I think it was like a khaki tan NATO strap, which looked great on this. NATO-style strap. I can't say NATO. It's NATO-style. This was a NATO-style strap, actually. This is in the original NATO. Can you say it, for the one that was on Sean Connery's wrist in Dr.No. The first time we ever saw the Submariner on in the movies, and the Bond movies, the very first Bond movie, and as well as seeing it actually off of his bracelet and on a NATO strap of all things. This was the original colorway, which was basically a black with the olive green two stripes, center stripes, and it's bordered with like a red border, a thin stripe on either side of those green stripes, and that's what he wore back then. And I don't know. I think recently there was some talk about Bond watches, and I saw like the old Submariner, and again, this is of course, very Submariner-esque look to it. And as I was going through my watch box, strap box full of straps that I guess 19 millimeters. This is 19 millimeters. I'm just trying to see what was available that I could use to pair this with, and I go through and I was like, this doesn't work, this might work. And then I came across this and I just kind of put it up next to it. I was like, you know what, this kind of works pretty nicely, actually. I'm not usually a fan of Bond style, NATO style straps, but it's something that I don't like the double stripes usually. I actually prefer a single stripe or something more centered. I didn't want too many stripes. Something looked a little busy to me in general, actually. But certain ones do work on certain watches for me, and this one kind of did. I think back to the Dr.No Submariner and the way he sported it, and I'm thinking, this is not as old and it's definitely not as coveted as that whole vintage Submariner that Sean Connery had, but it's just similar enough in style. And besides, the red and green in the strap actually kind of works because the logo in the TAG Heuer is red and green. And there's obviously black in the bezel and whatever fine details that are on the dial. And as you can see probably from this video, when this watch is exposed basically to daylight, for the most part the lume starts to, usually it's more pale, but then it starts to take on this greenish kind of glow or hue. Trust me, the lume isn't that strong on these things. They never were, but I would say that just from being outside, it just tends to glow or just get a little, it has that bit of greenish tint to it more during the daytime, which is fine. I think it adds a nice bit of contrast to the white dial and make it stand out more. Otherwise it was white on white, especially with such a thin border and outline around the markings, it might be even harder to read. But giving that extra shift in tonality to this this greenish color, light green color in this instance, I think works. And anyways, this strap, I don't remember where I got it from. I had this a long time ago, actually for another Rolex when I had my Oyster Precision, and I just decided to try to pair it up with that. And this was in a box that was full of 19mm straps that was for that Rolex. Anyways, so I started digging through it. I don't have a lot, but I was like, well, why not see what I have? And I found this. And this was originally a NATO-style, which has the double pass, basically the second layer, and then have that extra hardware here that the strap that you see right now would run through. And you see that, and you see this side, this keeper, the last one, which isn't movable, on both sides of the watch. And where they were positioned was kind of on a high side. This was actually further up, like right about, trying to center it right on my camera right about here, and conversely I try to even it up and it'd be something like that. So when I look at it on wrist, you see these metal keepers sticking out, and a watch that's already kind of compact, seeing those extra metal pieces on the upper and lowers just seemed they just stuck out to the sides of my wrist too much. I didn't like that look. And besides, I don't usually like double pass, double layered NATO style straps. And so I just decided, what, this is not, I know this is probably likely some cheapest NATO straps or CNS watch band as they are known now. This is not a high quality one, but it works and it's good enough. And I figured, what the hell, just cut it. So, which I have done with a number of my double layer, NATO style straps. And I did that just last night because I was wearing this at work and I was looking at it. I was like, I like it, but just those keepers make it look kind of wide on wrist. And by the way, mine's a 7-inch wrist, and this is a 37mm watch. Although it does tend to wear small because I think the dial to case and bezel ratio makes it look smaller. But I think it's on trend. There's a lot of 37mm dive watches and other watches these days too, and I appreciate that. And I can wear all sizes. I'll go up to 40, well over 40 even. But anyways, going back to this watch and strap. So I cut it off, and then with a nice clean razor blade, and sealed it off with a lighter, and that was it. And quick, easy mod, costs a couple of minutes, right? Just to carefully make a good incision or cut and get rid of that extra piece there. And what that allowed me to do was remove that extra hardware, and more importantly, I could shift this whole part down to this way, to my left, this way, because it was kind of riding up closer to this outer side of my wrist more. This buckle or tang was more to this side, and consequently all the hardware, and that's why you would see it more on this side, and that didn't look good. So when I got rid of that keeper, the one that was on this side, that didn't restrict me to keep the watch center between those two hardware, so I could shift the old strap around, or technically I guess that's shift the watch over this way more, and that way I could push this over and more under my wrist. So when you look at it now, you really don't see the hardware or that much sticking out from the top and bottom. And so that's another benefit besides slimming it down. Although this watch is pretty darn thin anyways, it didn't make much of a difference even with the double layer, but it's even more so now, even more low profile as you can get for something like this. So anyways, that's about it. Just wanted to share that. I think it looks cool. It's not a look that I always go with, but I just, that's why it's good to have straps, to be able to change it out once in a while, just to own something different that you haven't tried, and just mix up a look, and give me something visually interesting and something I don't usually look at in will otherwise be a static looking watch, right, that you always see in a usual configuration, I guess, with strap and watch combo. And I guess that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Enjoy your watches.